Hello everybody, good evening, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as Sir Jim Ratcliffe looks to assemble a dream team above Ten Hag of Mitchell, Ashworth and Blanc. What does that mean for Manchester United? Also, current Director of Football, John Murtagh, talking absolute nonsense. I want to get into that as well. And I'm not going to hold back. We're Manchester United and we can't keep living under a rock. It's ridiculous. Daily says evening, evening to Daily. But also a bit of a shock in January with a player that you wouldn't think leaving, that we haven't mentioned before, off to play in Dortmund, and it ain't Jadon Sancho. All that to talk and a lot more. But before we get into that, it's Boohoo Man time. We're sponsored by Boohoo Man. You know there is going to be a quiz because that's what we do. But you can also get a massive 70% site-wide off the website on boohooman.com at the moment, plus an additional 10% with the code Goldbridge. That's a winter sale discount to warm you up. And if you're looking to get Christmas presents, late Christmas presents, presents for yourself, gym wear, relax wear, January's coming, Boohoo Man's the place to go. Very reasonably priced items anyway, but use that code Goldbridge and the 70% around the website and you could get some fantastic clothing delivered to your door over the next few days and weeks. Check it out with the QR code or the link in the description. But as always, Boohoo Man like to bring you a bit of trivia, and if you get this one today, I'll be very impressed. Probably the hardest one Boohoo Man have given us this year. I was born on the 14th of November, 1960 in Manchester, England. In the autumn of 1981, I joined United from West Brom for a fee of £500,000. My debut game for United was on September the 19th, 1981 against Swansea City. During my time at United, I played 150 games and scored 7 goals. Sadly, due to injuries, I had to retire from the game in 1988 when I was only 28 years old. Post-retirement, I took up coaching the Manchester Warriors hockey team. Who am I? If anyone gets this, I'll be massively impressed. Oh, he got it. I'm going to give it him. Red Devil 1966. Remy Moses. Absolute legend if you got that one. Fantastic. Well done. Well done. Well done. I don't think I would have got that, and I do know who it is, but I don't think I would have got it. A big thank you to Boohoo Man for supporting the show as usual. Don't forget you can get an extra discount when you use the code Goldbridge at checkout. Head over there. But let's get back to the show. Lots to talk about, and I'm going to start off straight away by putting this up on your screen because I find this incredible. We're going to talk about Dan Ashworth. Apparently, Dan Ashworth, Newcastle are scared that he's going to come to us. That's the big story today. Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail, a few other people talking about it, even North East correspondents, which is where Newcastle are. They want to talk about it as well. They're worried that Dan Ashworth wants to come to Manchester United. What does that say about Manchester United? What does that say about Newcastle? Newcastle, probably one of the most exciting projects in world football with the money they've got and the support they've got and the stadia they've got. But Dan Ashworth could be tempted away from Newcastle to come to Manchester United. This would be a huge scoop for Manchester United. But before we talk about that and the potential of Paul Mitchell joining him as well, let's talk about this for a moment. And look, this is come from Manchester United's current Director of Football in relation to a fans forum that took place last week. Looking at the January transfer window, we don't expect it to be particularly busy. There will always be opportunities, particularly in finding opportunities for players who aren't playing as much as they would like. John Murtagh at Man United's fan forum last week. So basically, we're not going to do anything in January unless there's a bargain for a player that's not very good. However, we've always been consistent in saying that we do not consider January to be the best time to do business and that our recruitment strategy remains focused on the summer transfer windows. This needs calling out. This is why we fail. As a fan base, we can't keep swallowing this nonsense. It's absolutely incredible that a football club in the Premier League doesn't do business in January, refuses to do business in January because they think it's better to do in the summer. On what planet? Is it something to do with the financial year? This is not football related. It is absolute nonsense. I'd be embarrassed as an employee of Manchester United to be talking that publicly at a fans forum. And who's on the fans forum? Why aren't they calling them out like I'm about to do now? You're telling me we don't do business in January because we've got a strategy in the summer. We've screwed up more summers than the rain. It's ridiculous. We don't do well in the summer transfer window. We've just come off a really bad summer transfer window. So what's this all about? You know what this is all about? This is like wanting to get married and only going to Magaluf in the summer. When your mates are saying we're going skiing in Austria or Italy, there's loads of talent there to have a look at. No, I do want to get married, but I'm only going to Magaluf in the summer. Forget the opportunities across the winter. I know there will be some, but I'm not going. I'm not going to do it. It's absolutely incredible. It's absolutely thick. And they say it publicly. They say it publicly all the time. This is not the first year they've said our strategy is to focus on the summer transfer window. So we ignore the winter transfer window where there might be some bargains, and we focus on the summer transfer window where everybody else is, and also everybody else is looking in the January transfer window as well. And can we just drop the mic here and say, John Murtagh should not be director of football. It should have been Ralph Rangnick, but they screwed him over. What did Ralph Rangnick advise Man United to do in the very short time he was there? He told them in January about Alvarez and Enzo Fernandez when they were in Argentina. Alvarez went to Man City, Enzo Fernandez went to Benfica, and then he went to Chelsea a year later. So, you know, this is what I mean. This is what I'm talking about. It's one big con job, says Julian, and Sir Jim is in on it. Well, I don't know about that. We'll talk about director of football in the moment. But this needs calling out. This needs calling out. It's a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense. It makes no sense in a footballing world at all. It is penny pinching. It is saving money. They think you're idiots. They really do think they're idiots. I can't believe who's on that fan forum and why they're not saying what we're talking about here. How can you sit there like fish going, bop, bop, bop? It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense for a football club to not do business in the January transfer window. I know it's hard. There are certain players you can't get, but you can get good players. Bruno Fernandes came in the January transfer window. Newcastle have done good business in the January transfer window. Chelsea did loads of business in the January transfer window. You can do business in the January transfer window. Gakpo went to Liverpool in the January transfer window. So you can do it. And Man United shut it down every year under the pretense that they're a switched-on football club and will focus on the we'll focus on the summer transfer window. Can I just remind this football club that over the last decade, we have presided over more shit than comes out Piers Morgan's mouth. It's absolutely... We're not good. I'd understand it if we ignored the January transfer window and in the summer we were buying people like, you know, Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham and you know, Barella and Osman and people like that. But we're not. We're buying Mason Mount, Eriksen on a free. We're not owning the summer. We mess the summer up. How many times every year do we get frustrated in the summer transfer window? We don't do well in the summer transfer window. So I just can't believe that the director of football is allowed to talk nonsense like that. He must know he's talking nonsense as well. It's no surprise this dream team spin comes out the day Murtagh puts the damper on the January transfer window. So Alexander, exactly. This is my fear as well. And that's why I wanted to start with this instead of the potential positive of Ashworth and Mitchell and Blanc being our new sporting team above Ten Hag, because I think that potentially is a positive. But I think instead of buying players, the big positive is we're bringing in a director of football. Well, what's the job of a director of football or a sporting director? It's to recruit and remove. And we won't recruit in January. And Colette Roach said it as well in the fans forum. She backed this up. Our strategy is around the summer. You know what? It's infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating. You missed the boat. You missed the boat. Simple as that. You're going to miss the boat because you are halving your opportunities to do business. Yeah, but Mark, we can only afford one holiday a year, and the summer lasts longer, says Rory C. Exactly. It's a metaphor or whatever you would call it, but you're right. It makes me really angry. This makes me really angry because it's amateur hour. This is Manchester United. This is why we fail. There are multiple reasons why we fail, but this is one of them. You know, we completely ignore the January transfer window. And we should be set for it. We should be used to it. Cristiano Ronaldo left and we replaced him with Wout Weghorst. That's what we do. Arturo says, how they focus the summer window if they always do business at the end of the window. Mate, it's all spin. They think you're thick. They think you're mushrooms. They think you won't remember. They think, let's tell the fans we're not doing any business in January because we're good in the summer. And then in the summer, they won't remember what we said and we'll be shit in the summer as well. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And it really, really, really winds me up. Really winds me up because I tell you what, not doing business in the January transfer window is all fine and good, but we're nowhere near the top four. So you're not going to strengthen the team in January when we're nowhere near top 4 and everybody above us is going to strengthen. How's that going to work out for you then? Where do you think we're going to finish this season if we don't strengthen from 8th? We're currently 8th, aren't we? 7th or 8th. So we're currently 7th or 8th. We're not going to strengthen, but everybody above us is. What are we doing here? Are we setting Ten Hag up on purpose to get the sack so that Ashworth and co can bring in Potter in the summer? Is that what this plan is? I don't know whether United are actually thinking, don't spend anything in January, let's run the cause with Ten Hag, get rid of him in the summer and keep the money for the new manager. I mean, I don't know, but it wouldn't be unusual. It happened with Van Gaal. Van Gaal was looking to do business in January. They didn't do it because they knew they had Jose coming in the summer. Is this what the plan is? Get the director of football in first to do the assessment and then bring the manager in 4 or 5 months later. It's exactly what Man City did with Pep. Is it Tixi Begiristain? They brought him in months before Pep to have a look at the thing and start doing the groundwork. I don't know, but by not spending in this January transfer window, I think they are accepting this season is going to get worse. An ambitious football club would not ignore the January transfer window. So look, let's wait and see what happens with it. We're currently 7th. That's an improvement, Joel. Thank you very much. Anyway, look, let's talk about some other news because I just wanted to get that off my chest first because it's so bloody frustrating. I mean, I actually thought it was an old quote from John Murtagh, but it's not. It's just repetition of what we keep doing, and I just find it incredible. Anyway, look, let's talk about this. So, effectively, few stories coming in today. The Mail are saying that John Murtagh has been holding meetings this week over the January transfer, even though it seems increasingly likely that Dan Ashworth will replace him as Manchester United's footballing director once Sir Jim Ratcliffe moves into Old Trafford. The feeling is that although Ineos sources insist no major strategic decisions have been made, some close to the Newcastle situation fear that Dan Ashworth is going to depart and join Manchester United. And that's coming in from the Mail and also Mark Douglas, who is a Northern football correspondent for iPaper Sport. So a couple of stories today that that Dan Ashworth is actually interested in the job. Now, remember what I said to you a few days ago, and I find all this very interesting. You know, it's the technical side of Manchester United, and I do find it very interesting. And I did say on Twitter today, Manchester United having I don't know what you'd call it. Maybe, what do you call it? A team above the manager? You know, a sporting structure, I suppose. Manchester United having a sporting structure like this. And look, there's also talk that Paul Mitchell would come in as well. So Paul Mitchell, Dan Ashworth, and then Blanc as the CEO. Blanc, Mitchell, and Ashworth coming in as the sporting infrastructure above Ten Hag or whoever the manager's going to be. Regardless of what you think about Qatar and Sir Jim, etc., putting those 3 people who all have a very good footballing CV at different clubs, Mitchell, Ashworth, and Blanc coming into this football club would be like going from staying on the M6 at a travel lodge near Stoke to a penthouse suite in a Dubai hotel. It doesn't matter what you think. That's true. Like, you are bringing in 3 people with incredibly good CVs. But what I will say is, it doesn't make me go, "Oh, Sir Jim, you're amazing." This would have happened with Qatar. This would have happened with anybody. This is what should have happened 10 years ago. So I think it is a dream team. I really, really do. But I think it's something that I just cannot believe the Glazers haven't. And you've spoken about it. We've spoken about it for years. We've not had footballing people who know what they're doing above the manager for 10 years. I mean, Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold, they're not football people. Blanc is. Ashworth and Mitchell are 2 of the best sporting directors in Europe. John Murtagh isn't. So, look, however you think about it, if we get those 3 people, it will have an impact on Manchester United over the next 5 years. It doesn't mean we're going to win the league. It doesn't mean we're going to win the Champions League. But it will mean improvements in some sense, because you go from an absolutely dire collection of, you know, board above the manager to actually, on paper, a quite competent one. Hi, Mark. Just wanted to wish you a happy holidays. Love what you do. Let's go United. To Sakin. Happy birthday. Happy Christmas, mates. A Merry Christmas. 2013 to 2023. Same bullshit, says Test. Thank you very much. We're early tonight because I'm doing Chelsea against Newcastle, Stu. Sorry about that, but it's a good show. It's a good show. Look, I feel that it's really interesting because when we know about Paul Mitchell. He was at Southampton and Spurs with Poch. He then went to Leipzig, did a good job there, and Monaco, and did a good job there. So Paul Mitchell, as director of football or whatever, would be very useful, and he is free at the moment since he left Monaco. Blanc works with Ineos anyway, did a great job at Juventus a few years ago, and also at PSG. So he will come in as well. Those two are very easy to recruit. Dan Ashworth, I think, is really interesting. I worry what it means for Ten Hag. I've got to say, if you're Erik Ten Hag, you're about to get a new CEO and potentially 2 very influential sporting directors. What does that mean for the manager? It means a dilution of your decision-making. Of course it does. But before we come back to that, let me just say this. Dan Ashworth coming in, the job he did at Brighton and the job he's done at Newcastle in a short period of time, he has a fantastic CV. There's no doubt about that. And what interests me is, and I said the other day, I'm not going to start talking about Dan Ashworth because I can't see why you'd leave Newcastle. I don't understand why you'd leave Newcastle. They're ridiculously wealthy. They're on the pathway to becoming the next Man City, where you're winning Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. Why would you leave that? You're going to be well paid. You're going to be able to recruit fantastically well, some of the best players in the world, and the trajectory is to go right to the top. So I don't understand why he'd leave that. I really don't. I'd even say to Newcastle fans, I don't know why he'd leave it. It doesn't make any sense. But if he does want to leave it to come to Manchester United, well, that's a huge tick in the box for us as a club, because why would you leave, man? Why would you leave Newcastle? You know, and he's only at the start of that project as well. Why would you leave it to come to Manchester United, where the risks are massive? So I would take that as a huge boost if Dan Ashworth wants to come to Manchester United. Hopefully he's good enough to do the job. He's done a very good job at Brighton and Newcastle and at the FA before that. But I think that would be a huge tick for Manchester United to bring somebody like that in. What I will say, though, there is always a negative. What I will say is Dan Ashworth, Blanc and Paul Mitchell don't cover up the fact that we could be playing in the Conference League next season, because what's happening in the January transfer window? You can have the best CEO in the world, you can have the best director of football in the world, but if you haven't got the players and you haven't got the money, then how can you be successful? And I do feel that, look, I like the sound of Mitchell, I like the sound of Blanc, I like the sound of Ashworth, but I'm more focused on what's happening on Saturday against West Ham, what's happening on Boxing Day against Aston Villa, what's happening next month, where are we in the league, what's going to happen next season, because these decisions are good, but it terrifies me that we're just basically saying, let's get the infrastructure above the manager right and let it crumble, and then we'll bring our own guy in. And that's just my projection and guess. This, to me, looks like it's all broken at the bottom. Let's bring the people we want in at the top and let them pick what they want below them. And if I was Ten Hag, I'd be very worried. I would be very, very worried. I think he looks in a very vulnerable situation. If they're saying no spend in January, get on with what you've got, and he already knows it's not enough, and then you've got people above you that are going to be scrutinising you while it's all crumbling, it don't look good. And we know how these players work. Oh, it's not my fault. You know, can I have a word, Dan? It's not my fault. It's the manager. Yeah. So it could be really bad for Ten Hag, this situation. And on one hand, they might be bringing these people in to help Ten Hag and things could get better for him. On the other hand, they might be bringing these people in to get rid of Ten Hag and bring their own man in the summer where the real money will get spent. And we've seen that happen before. I think Ten Hag is suited to a Brighton or a Dortmund, low-wage kids that can run for him. Don't think he can handle the likes of Ronaldo or Varane, says Parker. Well, I certainly don't think Graham Potter can. And why would Ashworth be leaving Newcastle willingly? A club with way more potential. Newcastle clearly looking at a better director, says Nick J. Well, I mean, I'm sure Newcastle would spin it of that. I would agree. I'm sure they would. But he's done a really good job in a very short space of time, Nick. And yeah, I'm not so sure about that one, if I'm being honest. just I found this section now where I can read all the super chats without them skipping through. So let me just make sure I've got them. I've done Alexander Phillips. I've done Julian B. Arturo says how they focus the summer window. Yeah, we've done that one as well. We've done Sacking, gifting a membership as well. Parker, I think Ten Hag is suited. And okay, yeah, I've caught up. That's fantastic. Ashworth want to leave because he loves a challenge, says Maz. And no decent coach would want this job when these players who are not good enough to wear the shirt are still at this club, says Angelo. So look, yeah, two very, very interesting stories developing from today. The director of football, John Murtagh, saying that we like to do our business in the summer, which is incredible. I've had my say on that. And then also this developing story that Dan Ashworth is looking to be Manchester United's director of football, sporting director, with Blanc as the CEO. And I think that, look, Dan Ashworth doesn't mean Graham Potter. Could mean Eddie Howe. But I think that one thing I've always said, and I have to be careful how I word this, but one thing I've always said is, this is not a takeover. This is not Qatar. This is not Abu Dhabi. This is not Saudi Arabia. This is not Mike Ashley. This is not whoever buys a football club. This is the Glazers in charge. But what it is a 25% deal to take control of the footballing side. So effectively, Sir Jim Ratcliffe will have nothing to do with the brands or whatever else United are going to do, but he will have a say on the footballing side. So from Ten Hag's point of view, that's very, very dangerous, because what resides on the footballing side is the manager. And if Sir Jim Ratcliffe is taking control of the footballing side, then as far as Ten Hag is concerned, this is a takeover. And if Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes in, how many times over the last 10 years, when a club has been taken over, has the new owners kept the current manager? Go and do your homework, because I would wager a guess that we're in excess of 70% who changed the manager. We are effectively, in Ten Hag's position, getting new ownership, because Sir Jim's going to deal with the footballing side. I fear that Ten Hag is going to get phased out and could be gone in the summer. I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think it lets the players off the hook again. You bring someone like Potter in or whoever, and Rashford and Maguire and Bruno, and I may as well just name everybody, and Lindelof and Luke Shaw and Anthony, and they all get a second chance. Maybe some of them do deserve one, maybe they don't, but everybody gets a chance under a new manager, which means this lot get to do it again in 2 or 3 years' time. I think it's going to be all change at Man United, and look, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but you get a hunch and you get a feeling, and it feels to me like, why would a new CEO, a new director of football, come in, not spend in January, and then assess everything if they're not thinking about the manager in the summer? And I think that's where we're heading. So, is that what we want? Is that what we need? Another change in the manager? I don't know. But on the other hand, I might be completely wrong, and it could be that these people are being brought in to support the manager. And also, you've got to consider that, nobody ever thinks how Ten Hag might feel about this. He's had, 2 years, nearly, 18 months at the club. He has brought players in. He's had a lot of say in those set players. You know me, I do not agree with the Onana signing. I think we should have kept Ten Hag we should have kept De Gea for another year. Ten Hag was allowed to do that. So he's had a bit of freedom in relation to what he's been able to do. I guarantee you he's not going to get that freedom under Dan Ashworth and Blanc and maybe Mitchell. He won't have that freedom anymore. And maybe he'll get pissed off. We've seen that Ten Hag has had issues with Ronaldo, Jadon Sancho, Varane, Casemiro, a few others. I don't have a problem with those issues. But what you do get from that is that Ten Hag is temperamental. It's his way or not. Now, people come in and say, we're not going to listen to you as much anymore. He might get pissed off with that. So, I don't know. But I just feel that, sadly, the victim, yet again, is Man United football fans who seem to, every bloody January, be looking at the league and going, that's the season written off. Of course, last year didn't go that way. We ended up in 2 cup finals. We won a trophy and we got 3rd place. But you look at the Rangnick season, we had to write that off. You look at the Ollie seasons, I think we had to write 2 of those off in January. It happens a lot. United screw up the start of the season and you end up writing the season off and waiting until next September for something to happen. And if we don't do any business in January, That's the acid test for me. If we don't do any business in January, I think we're going to do a Van Gaal with another Dutch coach where we wind it down until May and then we get rid of them and bring somebody else in that they think's right. The only way United will return to glory is Qatari buyout. Ancelotti as manager and a complete open checkbook player. Overhaul 15 players, says Parker. Mark, not to change the topic, says Nick J, but what did you think about Mourinho's interview about the same players still being here that said to get rid of? There's only a few still here he can name, says Nick. I just discussed it this morning, Nick. It was McTominay, Shaw, Rashford and Martial in that piece that they basically deduced it was. But yeah, we got into it extensively this morning. And I think Mourinho telling the truth about the playing squad being the problem is exactly what we need, because we seem to talk about it all the time. Mojo's a legend of the chat. He's just gifted 20 memberships. Actually, that reminds me, obviously last week in Manchester we had the Christmas show, 2-hour Christmas show in Manchester, the United Stand. Everyone was on stage, we had Ben Foster, etc. Update on that show. We have got the video footage of it, and it's going up on the members section in the next couple of days, part 1, part 2. So hopefully we could get part 1 up tomorrow. If not tomorrow, it'll be Thursday. So if you are a member, there's a little trick. Well, there's 2 Christmas presents for you. You're going to get, obviously we put all our live shows onto the member section. There's already a Dublin show on there that you might want to go back and look at from the summer. But if you are a member, check that out. If you want to be a member, click the join button. They're going up tomorrow. And Mojo has just gifted 20 people the opportunity to watch that. Just a little bit of news as well to bring in. You might have read this in Bild, which is a German outlet, that apparently Dortmund want to get Reguilon in January. This surprised me a lot, actually, because Reguilon, I mean, let me just do a quick poll on this. Would you let Reguilon go? Simple as that. I just wasn't expecting it. And then I thought, well, actually, why not expect it? He was only on a... We didn't go for Cucurella because he was more expensive. We went for Reguilon because it was only for 6 months. That, again. And remember what I said? We don't do business in January because we're so focused on the summer. Yeah, remember last summer? Amrabat last minute, Reguilon because he was cheap. Yeah, we're so good. We don't need to do business in January because we're so bloody good at it in the summer. So we got Reguilon instead of Cucurella because Chelsea wanted to loan Cucurella for the full season, which was more expensive. So we went and got Reguilon. His contract is up in January and Dortmund want to take him. And apparently the player is more interested in that because he wants to play first team football. And obviously he's not playing first team football at Manchester United much at the moment. In fact, he's hardly playing at all. So do you think it's a good idea for him to go? He's 27 years of age as well, so he's going to want to play football. I think it's a good deal for Dortmund, and I think it's a risk by Manchester United. I'm not sure how Alvaro Fernandez is doing in La Liga. He was doing quite well, but Malacia has not played in about 8 months, and I can't even remember what Malacia is like anymore. I just don't remember what he's like anymore. Luke Shaw is fantastic, but he has the potential to get injured. So you let Reguilon go and you're left with Malacia and Shaw. I don't feel I don't feel confident that that's enough to get us through. But as I said, I just look at a lot of things going on at the moment, and I really want to be wrong on this, but all I see is a season write-off and cutting and saving money. These Varane and Casemiro sales in January that are being discussed, that's just raising funds. That's just killing this team. Sending Reguilon back, that's just saving money. Not doing any business in January, that's just saving money. Everything at the moment terrifies me that we're just looking to save money and stumble through to the summer where we reset again. And that's what worries me. Ask Spurs fans if they take Reguilon back, says Nick. Look, I never wanted Reguilon in the first place. I wanted Cucurella. But Man United did a cheap deal. And in fairness to Reguilon, if he hadn't have come in, we'd have been in trouble. So I do give him some credit for actually coming in, and he always gave 100%. Do I think he's good enough? I think going forward he's reasonable. I think defensively, that's why Ten Hag hasn't been using him recently, because defensively I think he's very, very suspect. Going forward, I think he's quite good. I would let him go, but I don't think it will necessarily leave us in a good position relying on Malacia if Luke Shaw gets injured. So it's the state of the times. But I think what United are looking to do in January, quite obviously, is cut costs It looks like we're going to be cutting costs, and that really does concern me, definitely. 65% of you would let Reguilon go. 35% would keep him. Nick's been a member for 40 months, and he said that. We've got that. Welcome to the Members Club, Sven, as well. You'll be seeing the Christmas show tomorrow when that goes up. Palina should be top priority for January. He reads the well, says Cow. And he's not the worst player, but he isn't good enough, says Danny. And Malacia is overrated for me. He makes too many mistakes. Charles, I can't remember. I can't remember Malacia. It's been so long since he played. I can't criticise the lad. I don't know. Is he better than Reguilon? He's younger. He's probably got more potential, like James says. But, yeah, it's... I think United... I'm worried about United at the moment. I'm always going to be cynical, and I'm always going to be sceptical, because over the last 10 years, we've been taught to fear the worst. And I do feel... Thomas has been a member for 14 months. Thank you, mate. I do feel that a lot of what I'm hearing at the moment... Look, there's no smoke without fire. And I just look at the situation and I go... Why are the rumours about letting Varane and Casemiro go? That's just bringing money in. That's weakening the team. Why is Reguilon going back in January when we've not had very reliable left-backs all season, saving money? Why are we not going to do any business in January when we clearly need to, because we need to play catch-up and try and get into the new Champions League, saving money? Why are we trying to save so much money in January if we've got the manager that they want to back? Because I think they're just going to write this season off, get to the summer, and reset again with a new manager. And that's what I fear is going to happen. And that would be logical about bringing in Dan Ashworth, Phil Mitchell, Paul Mitchell, Blanc, to give them 3 or 4 months to start putting the groundwork in for the new manager in the summer. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But it just looks like they're shutting down this season. And I hope I'm wrong, but to me, it does. I feel that it really, really does, because if I was in charge of that football club at the moment, I would be looking at the scenario and I would be saying, well, look at the league table. I'm sorry to keep showing you this, but if I was in charge of Man United at the moment and on the footballing side, I'd look at that and I'd go 28 points. God, we're 5 points off 5th, and 5th might not be enough for the Champions League. How do we make those 5 points back? We've got to be active in the January transfer. Spurs might be active in the January transfer window. Newcastle will be active in the January transfer window. The teams that are going for 4th are going to be active in the January transfer window. I've got to be. I can't sit back and do nothing. We're going to drop. But maybe the club want us to drop. I don't know. It's really hard to know what the strategy is when you're living off scraps, but I don't know. And I certainly think that ignoring that January transfer window is terrifying. And we've basically put a public statement out today saying that we will. Ladios is right. One of our members, moderators, says the club is way too relaxed for 7th place. And that's what I'm starting to wake up to. You're only relaxed in this situation if you're writing the season off. It's almost like they think it's not worth spending money to try and rescue a dead season. Let's get to the summer and make major changes and go again. And you can imagine, I mean, it's so similar to what happened with Ranić, isn't it? If that happens, you know, interviewing new managers. Oh, what is Rashford going to be a star player? You've got the job. I mean, it's just like Ten Hag all over again. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep resetting. We did it with Van Gaal. Van Gaal won an FA Cup, only missed out on 4th place on goal difference, but they'd been planning for Mourinho for 4 months. We did it with Mourinho, with Ollie. And then we kept Ollie. And then we did it with Ollie when we brought Ranić in, and we were planning for the summer with a new manager. You can't keep writing seasons off in December. You can't do it. And it just feels like there's no urgency to a situation that I see getting worse. I see us going down, not up. And that's what I mean. The next 2 games, if we can beat West Ham and Aston Villa, and then Forest, if we can take 9 points before New Year's Eve, put ourselves in the mix, and then the club say we're not going to do anything, that'd just be incredible. Absolutely incredible. And Pap says Man United will want to be in that new Champions League format. Well, if they want to be in it, you've got to fight for it. Nick says, last comment from me tonight, but what other major club has multiple directors of football? Man City, Liverpool, this worries me. Hire the best man. Well, I think Nick makes a great point. I don't know whether we're going to get Dan Ashworth and Paul Mitchell. But I think you raise a good point about why would you need two? Why would you need two? And apparently John Murtaugh's going to stay as well. I mean, yeah. And then you've got Sir David Brailsford, and then you've got Sir Jim Radcliffe, and then you've got Blanc, and then you've got the manager, and then you've got the two directors of football, and then you've got John Murtaugh. It's, yeah, look, we can only report and we can only discuss what we're talking about, but yeah, I don't know. Loads of members. I'm seeing. I've got a sea of members here. Devils 58 Reds, Anthony Heath, Cameron Deal, Tina G, Carl B Jacob, Just Keevan, Chris the Red, Cal Pam. Probably pronounced that wrong. Just a blitz of members there. Thanks for your support as ever. Can see you there with your badges. Villa's going to be a tough game, says Richard. It is. And too many cooks, says John. And yeah, a lot of people saying too many cooks as well. When do we play next? Playing on Saturday, lunchtime, Alex, against West Ham away. It's going to be a very, very, very different game. Off topic a bit. Is TUSFC career mode back anytime soon? Missed those career mode streams, says Chikorito. I'm going to look at it. I've got a Man United one to finish, but I'm sort of taking a bit of a time out at the moment and seeing if I want to bring it back, but never say never. I've got to move across because I've got a watch along starting in 4 minutes, but I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Fantastic show. Really enjoyed it. Some really important discussion about Manchester United and the future. And I'm not planting a seed here. It's more planted in my head. I just feel that potentially we are writing this season off, bringing structure in to replace the manager and hit the reset in the summer under a new ownership idea. And look, trust me, it's a well-written rule. New owners like to bring their own people in. Is Ten Hag on borrowed time? We'll have to wait and see. Of course, if he starts winning games, he can stay in the job. Interesting, very interesting. I'm going to go and watch Chelsea play Newcastle in the Carabao Cup. I wish Man United win it, but we're out. If you want to get over there, we normally have a laugh, bit of banter, all sorts, polar bears, the lot. I'll see you over there in a couple of minutes. Thanks for watching. Smash a like and please do subscribe on your way out. We're getting very close to 1.8 million. It'd be great to hit it before Christmas. Subscribe on your way out. I'll see you in a bit.